Welcome, friends. Good to see you again. Hey, Lou.
Good morning. How are we doing?
Good. I'm good. Hope all is well with you.
Very well. How about yourself?
Good. Thank you.
I like your
So,
flower. I like your orchid. Is that
thank
an
you.
orchid? Do I have that correctly?
Yes, it's an orchid. We had some friends over for the weekend and they brought it, and it looks pretty. And we try our best to keep these orchids. The one that's all the way in the back there
Yes.
was given to us, to my wife, on Mother's Day. And it's been a few months now, so it's doing well.
One of the prettier appearances of Brahman in our life.
Yes,
Orchid.
yes, yes. You look at all these things and you recognize the Supreme Being in everything.
Hmm.
So today, friends, we're going to be doing chapter 15, verse 10 and 11. Verse 10 says, "This being, departing or dwelling or enjoying, united with the gunas or qualities, the deluded do not perceive. The deluded do not perceive. Only those with the eye of wisdom, they see." So this being refers again to the Atman. Departing or dwelling or enjoying essentially refers to the experiences of birth, of living and dying. United with the gunas, the deluded do not see, means everything is so simple according to Krishna. You need to be able to see that it is so easy to see that everything around you is Brahman. Like Lou said, this flower, you look at it, you say this is Brahman, that you are Brahman. But if you're united with the gunas, you're only talking about if you're united with tamas, all you think about is just
Right.
being lazy and drinking beer and watching TV and nothing else. If you're united with rajas, you say, what can I do? What can I do? What can I do? And he's saying, well, if you're united with the gunas, then you're deluded. You're, as he says, a fool. And you do not see something that is so obvious. And only those with the eye of wisdom, they see. So when you have sattva, rajas, tamas covering the Atman, you do not recognize the Atman because we're so caught up with the world. Each one of us has our own worlds. A doctor is immersed in his practice and medicine, that's all he sees. A sports player is immersed in his sports. A dancer is immersed in her practice of dancing. They don't see that or everything else that is very, very important to know. While you're immersed in the world, you should recognize that everything behind everything is Brahman. If you can recognize that, you're way ahead. That's when you have the eye of wisdom, and only those people can see Brahman as it really is. In this verse, he says Muda. Muda means deluded, means a fool. Vimuda means completely deluded, really biggest fool there is. They do not see the Atman going or remaining or coming. So here he says departing or dwelling or enjoying. It really refers to all the various phases of life. Once you enjoying, you're coming, you're dying, departing, or you're dwelling, meaning you're living on a regular basis. If while living in the body, he does not see that he is the Brahman, he will give up this body only to take another because he never saw it. All he sees is the pleasures of this world, and he wants to keep coming back again and again, he meaning the Atman, with the causal bodies and subtle bodies that we talked about last time, to continue to enjoy this world because he hasn't seen the importance of uniting with the Brahman. The individual cannot discriminate or separate. So he only sees that which the sense organs and the mind direct him towards. This only takes him further away from Brahman. Why? Because it's directed towards the sense organs, the sense objects, and the world. And the more he indulges in that, the further he goes away from his real course of action, his real direction, which is to get to Brahman. The lack of the ability to discriminate. You remember we talked about Viveka and Vairagya. The lack of the ability to discriminate is due to the extreme attraction for the world's sense objects. Deluded because he, the individual, doesn't see what is so evident to those who have more spiritually evolved. So evident that this is all Atman Brahman, that every person around us is another Atman. We see him as somebody to be jealous of, angry towards, dislike, etc. And this lack of ability to discriminate makes us a fool, Muda or Vimuda. We are completely wrapped up in the objects of the world, and what we want is to possess and accomplish. Get this, get this, get this, enjoy it. Accumulate, enjoy, and accomplish. Do more, do more. The Gita says we humans are kidnapped and held hostage by highway robbers. The highway robbers being raga and dvesha. I like this, I don't like this. Likes and dislikes, raga and dvesha. Those are highway robbers that the Gita says have held you hostage and kidnapped you. You should objectify the I and the not I. Differentiate it. Do the vairagya. As a driver of a car says, I did 60 miles per hour. He didn't do 60 miles per hour. The car did 60 miles per hour. You so also we say, I did this, I said this, I created this. No, you didn't. You were just like the driver of the car. You were just the driver. So those who have eyes of wisdom, they recognize their own self, no matter what the state of their body is. It could be young, it could be middle-aged, it could be old. Those who have the eyes of wisdom, recognizing that this is Atman within, they look at the body and they say, it's just a vehicle. It's just like my car getting old. You know, it's okay, it's my car getting old. I haven't changed, or I have changed, but my car has to get old. It has to get rusted because it's old. No matter what the state of their body is, those with the eyes of wisdom recognize, either at the time of death or when alive, or while recognizing the gunas or in sorrow, like Arjuna was in sorrow, Gautam Buddha was in sorrow. Even at that time, you can still get an awareness of what is Atman, what is Brahman. Behind every experience is the self. Just like behind every written word that we write is the ink. Think about this analogy. Behind every written word is the ink. You see the word when you look at it, and you look at the word.
Right.
You forget that this is ink. When you now say, no, I want to focus on the ink, you notice ink everywhere, but you didn't exist it until that time. Recognize the I in you. I am, I exist. And what else do I have for verse 10? That's probably it. So verse 11. The yogis who strive, they perceive. The yogis who strive, they perceive. This dwelling in the self, this meaning the Atman, dwelling in the self, the unrefined and unintelligent, even those striving, do not perceive this. So, a simple comment, but put in a way that we may not understand. This refers to Brahman. So, when he says this dwelling in the self, this meaning the Atman living within the body. What does yoga mean? Yoga comes from the Sanskrit word yuj, which means to join, bring together. Just like we say yoke, a yoke that pulls the oxen together,
Right.
not egg yolk, yoke of the oxen.
Yes.
Yoga means pulling together so that you can unite. Who are you uniting with? We're trying to unite back again with Atman, with the Brahman. That's the unity we're looking for. The yoga that we go into the yoga studios and stand on our head, that yoga is an instrument, one step towards the rest of the yoga, which is to get us closer to God. We don't recognize that. The old spiritual masters said, look, if you're sitting down to meditate and your body is weak, you can't meditate, you'll get distracted. Your body needs to be strong. To do that, to do the yoga, which is to unite with the Brahman, you need to have your body to be strong, flexible, etc., to be able to sit cross-legged and meditate for a long time. So the yoga was a means to the end of being one with Brahman. But people have misunderstood that. They just do yoga and thinking that that's it, the physical yoga, hatha yoga.
Right.
So here he says there are three kinds of yogas. One is karma yoga, which is action. Now, key in the karma yoga is that it should be selfless action. If you're doing some action to benefit others, excuse me, you want to make sure that it's selfless. You don't want to say, I'm doing it for money, I'm doing it for fame, I want my name plastered everywhere, I want people to remember me, I want people to say he did this. No, it is a selfless action that without your name, without anything attached to it, nothing coming back to you. That is karma yoga. That is one way of getting to God, to Brahman. Second way is bhakti yoga, lifting the mind through devotion, singing, chanting, prayers, praying. All of that is bhakti yoga that gets you to Brahman. And the last is what you're doing now, which is jnana yoga, understanding the science behind why you're doing this, contemplating, etc. One without the other is really not as good, because otherwise you know very much the jnana, you know about the science, you know about all of this, but you have no humility. You don't have any devotion, and that doesn't help. So those who do these practices, the yogis, that's why he calls it the yogis who strive, they perceive. The yogis who do karma yoga, bhakti yoga, jnana yoga, all together, a little bit of each, because each one of us has different gunas. Those who do this practice to grow towards Brahman. If you do this, you will ultimately reach the self. If not in this life, in one of your future lives, but at least you've made a head start this time. But those who are, as he says, this dwelling in the self, the unrefined and unintelligent, even though striving, do not perceive this. What does unrefined and unintelligent mean? Unrefined means those who, because of desires, are constantly agitated. You know, desires make us agitated. We've gone over this many times in the past. You have a desire for something, your mind starts off saying, a thought becomes a desire, and you keep thinking about the same thing until it becomes an obsession. And you think, that's all you can think about. That's agitation of your mind. When your mind is agitated because of ignorance, because of desires, you are considered unrefined. And those who are unrefined, even though you strive by going to the temples, by trying to do good things, you cannot perceive Atman because your mind is so disturbed, so distracted, so agitated.
Right.
This dwelling in the self, unrefined and unintelligent, even though striving, do not perceive this. That's what it refers to. The unrefined, agitated mind, full of desires because of ignorance, does not participate in this and does not move forward because of all the distraction. Unintelligent means not that he doesn't know mathematics or physics or chemistry.
Right.
That's not intelligence. Here, they talk of a higher level of intelligence, that intelligence being the awareness of Atman, Brahman, and the whole, how this system works. Many people don't know.
Spiritual intelligence.
Yes.
Yeah.
Many people do not know much of what we've been talking about, and they have no concept of how we work, how this mind works, how this body works, how God works, etc. When you are ignorant and agitated, even if you try, what do? You go to the temple, you sit there, you say you're praying, you won't succeed because your mind is agitated, unrefined, unintelligent, ignorant of all this. What are you doing? You're going to the temple, church, sitting there and saying, please, God, give me this. That selfish desire only makes it worse. You're not going to succeed. We all make the effort, but not in the correct way. You may put in a lot of effort. You say, I study all the time. I sit and I pray and I go to the temple, I go to church, I go to the synagogue, but with the incorrect underlying desire. Because in that, everything is quote unquote for me. I want it. When you do that, this prayer is useless.
Right.
So he's saying, even though striving in the spiritual path, but incorrectly, they're only increasing their own desires. So I remember that in India, growing up there, when I was in college and medical school, they the whole college, all the colleges, they said this particular Ganesh temple, Siddhivinayak in Mumbai, if you go there, you will succeed.
Hmm.
Now, we never thought about it logically and said if that were true, there would be no failures.
Right.
Everybody would pass. But we would take precious time out of our studies, travel by bus 2 hours, 1 hour going, 1 hour coming, stand in line for another hour and a half,
Yeah.
just to be able to go inside and say, God, please let me pass this exam. I've studied, I've done, please, I want to be, and it's such a waste
Yeah.
because going to temples, and the minute you pass your exam, you're off on vacation. You go to the movies, you never go back. There's no gratitude, nothing like that. So we think we're doing the right thing. We're praying, we're going to the temples, but everything is for me. The underlying desire is incorrect. So that's verse 11. And I thank you for your attention. I hope I haven't gone over the time. And we'll see you next time. Thank you.